media success is more than ROI. Social success across industries. My name is Marilyn Cox, and I am the marketing principal within the Oracle Marketing Cloud's Industry Solutions Center of Excellence. You can see here my contact information, so if you have any questions regarding any of the best practices or use cases defined in today's presentation, please feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to chat or clarify further. So I want to talk about social media. Primarily, I want to talk about measuring social media success, because measuring social media success poses a challenge to a lot of marketers. Those with little social media understanding are often the ones that hold the purse strings, and they expect these strong ROI metrics. But tying revenue to social activity is no simple feat. Much like any marketing revenue attribution model, no one single tactic can really take total ownership of revenue activity. And within the marketing organization, many companies still focus on impressions and reach, followers, likes, retweets. And while those are certainly good, tangible metrics, they can also be baseline for future measurement, but they don't typically align with the true objectives of the organization. So let's take a look at some examples of social media success across several different industries that extend beyond those traditional ROI metrics. And I want to start with Bank of America. So Pinterest counts more than 1.3 billion pins about managing money. And Bank of America saw an opportunity last year to repackage its personal finance content for Pinterest, which, as they recognized, is one of the fastest growing social sites. And it's a medium that already has consumers pinning on topics like family planning, and they contain a financial dimension. So the bank joined this visually engaging site back in October, and they created boards like buying a home and travel plans, and then populated them with pins that included visuals and links to content on Better Money Habits, which is Bank of America's financial education site. And this financial education site produces educational nonprofit material in conjunction with Khan Academy. And to date, the bank has had 72,000 repins and has earned one of the titles for top performing financial services companies on Pinterest. Let's also take a look at John Hancock's What Comes Next campaign. Now, while not directly tied to a specific social channel, I really want to highlight this program because I think it definitely emphasizes the success that social content can have. And you might be familiar with John Hancock's What Comes Next campaign because they have published a series of commercials on television that outline, learn the rest of the story. And so what they've done is they've taken 4 different scenarios: the ride, the meeting, the call, and the knock. And each of those scenarios has 3 alternate endings. And each of those alternate endings varies depending on a life experience that an individual might be going through. So, for example, if you were to click on the meeting, the alternate endings are somebody that's retiring, somebody that's getting promoted, and somebody that's losing their job. And through that content, John Hancock can provide financial information and financial guidance to an individual based on that life stage or life event that they might be experiencing. And this is not only, of course, of value and benefit to the consumer, but this is certainly a value and benefit to John Hancock because, like many financial institutions, they're trying to understand life events and life stages before they actually occur. So by providing this type of prompt, this is allowing John Hancock insight into those life stages and life events of consumers and potential clients. Now, I also want to highlight New York Life, and I absolutely love this social campaign that they've developed because they focus on the human element of their social community. They pose questions that garner an emotional response and really drive the community to share positive and fond memories. And because many of these experiences are shared across communities, other social followers comment and like the status. It's really driving a positive interaction. And by doing this, New York has actually added over 6,000 new Facebook followers in just a 10-day period that I observed. So a couple of really great takeaways from what New York Life has done. The first is, when it comes to social, don't just push content for consumption. Make sure that you're asking for community input. You want to run polls. You want to ask people to vote on scholarships or nonprofit donations. Make sure that you get topical, and not just with current events, but find out what personally motivates your community and gets them excited and talking. This is probably a no-brainer, but use images because people engage with photos. Make sure that you're relatable and relational. Don't be afraid to show the human side of your organization. Let your community know who the people are that they interface with and what those people are doing to contribute to the community as well as the business. Now, while social is certainly a growing trend, it's important not to overlook how social can tie into other channels throughout a marketing organization. So I want to take a look at what we're seeing over at Boehringer Ingelheim. This is one of my favorite social media case studies across any organization or any industry that you might be taking a look at. So Boehringer Ingelheim had traditionally conducted these roundtable discussions, and they recognized that there was an opportunity to extend these roundtable discussions by leveraging tweetchats out on Twitter. And so in this instance, they actually leveraged the hashtag #ChatAFib, and they conducted a roundtable discussion that included patient advocacy groups, HCPs, the pharma individuals from within the pharma organization, and other KOLs. They had 35 active contributors during that hour. Again, those healthcare providers, patient advocates, healthcare journalists. And through these conversations, they reached over 200,000 Twitter accounts. And they also saw a lot of retweeting by accounts like Atrial Fib UK and different medical experts. And then, of course, in the end, they gained over 200 new followers from the discussion. Now, what I love, though, about this is how interactive and engaging this particular social campaign was. Now, for a lot of organizations, whether you're talking about pharma or healthcare or financial services, where you're dealing with that added layer of compliance and regulation when it comes to social communications, you might be wondering, how did Boehringer Ingelheim do this? And I always preface with, I think that company culture certainly plays a tremendous role in the amount of risk an organization is willing to take. But in this instance, BI also made sure to engage with their compliance organization from the very beginning. And they sat down and they developed a series of what-if scenarios. So they discussed what happens if someone mentions a specific product, or what happens if someone mentions a specific side effect, what happens if misleading medical information is presented, or if off-topic discussions are initiated about a company or its products. And then working with the compliance team, they were able to develop a series of contingency plans for each of those scenarios. And that really empowered the social media team to go into this initiative feeling confident that they could drive positive engagement while still remaining compliant. And they were certainly successful across both of those objectives. Now, I think it's also important to remember that the success of a social media campaign isn't just measured by the community of followers a company can attract. It really takes a little effort for someone to like or follow a company. Those individuals that truly engage with messaging that's presented, they're gonna go a step further. They're gonna comment, they're gonna interact with the message, and they're really gonna become ambassadors for the brand. ADCO drives huge engagement across their posts. They've developed a community of farmers and those that work in the agricultural industry. So likes on Facebook posts reach into the 300 or 400s for each post. Their Facebook posts are always shared with an average of 5 to 15 shares per post. And they use a lot of photos throughout their Twitter posts as well. what I think is really important to reference about what ADCO has done is that they've created a platform and they've created that community. They've enabled a community of farmers and those within the ag space to interact and engage. And then they've kind of stepped back and they've allowed those conversations and that interaction to happen. So really, again, they're looking to enable the community, not own or control the community. ADCO really also knows how to use imagery, and they do an outstanding job of leveraging photos and videos. Their videos are also made available in many different languages, so they're really becoming all-encompassing with their global communications. They're using Facebook to bring a human element to their company. They use employee photos. They actually host a t-shirt design contest. They promote their involvement in the community, and they also feature capture this contest within their photos to drive engagement. When people and customers ask them questions on Twitter, they also always respond. So they're a very responsive brand. Now, aside from just community development, I think one of the great takeaways from social media is that it is another channel in which to crowdsource. So, Dentsply, Tulsa Dental Specialties, wanted to increase its Facebook audience and engaged endodontic residents in the U.S. and Canadian dental schools with one of their new products. So a cross-company team developed a contest, and in this instance it was the Gutacor University Challenge, and it was hosted entirely on Facebook, and they leveraged registration forms that were tied to their marketing automation technology. They created several different nurture paths with emails as well. So they drove inbound traffic to this Facebook challenge. They did this through press releases, other social channels, presence on university campuses. Individuals would come to the Facebook page, they would click on a link, they would register their information, and they would upload the information required to participate in the challenge. And then from there, they would be entered into a series of nurturing campaigns where they would receive educational and best practice content. And they'd also be entered into their newsletter, continued educational newsletter that would be published on a regular basis. So they found is that residents and alumni were submitting the required cases on Facebook to participate in this challenge, and they provided videos of themselves using the product and demoing techniques. So, of course, product managers would review and they would approve the cases before sharing. And then the social media manager would post those cases on Facebook. In the end, an in-house panel would select the finalists, and then the Facebook audience would vote on the winner by liking each of them. And I think the results were phenomenal. So they had a 75% increase in Facebook followers. They had a 650% increase in the number of schools using this dental tool. And they had a over 9,000% increase in reach on Facebook, and an over 5,000% increase in likes and posts that were clicked on Facebook. What was amazing, though, I think, is that in just 3 months, they acquired hundreds of new leads and opportunities, but also 75 positive testimonials about the product. So here they were able to crowdsource and generate individuals, these dentists that were actually using their tools and willing to share those techniques. And so now they have all of this additional information that can be used moving forward. Now, this is one of my favorite social campaigns, and this is one that has actually been run by Fifth Third Bank. So, Fifth Third is actually using social media as a way to recruit, and I think for a lot of organizations that are trying to better understand how to leverage social for purchasing purposes, they might want to take a step back and think about how they can also use it as a way to recruit and engage with that millennial audience that is very actively using social. So, Fifth Third Bank has created a campaign that really targets the young and underemployed. And they have recognized that over half of college graduates are still without a job 6 months after graduating. And so they launched a campaign where they are going to award 1,000 job coaching scholarships for individuals who tell the bank through Twitter why they deserve free one-on-one job search coaching. And this is the campaign that they have classified as the brand of you. And so the prize includes 8 weeks of personalized job coaching, personality and career testing, and creation or enhancement of LinkedIn and Twitter profiles. And they're hosting a series of 4 events on Twitter to drum up engagement, 2 of which will incorporate video responses from individuals. In May, the bank actually posed a single question job interview on Twitter and challenged participants to articulate their answers in a 30-second video response. And they've also created a series of behind-the-scenes videos of some of these students making their commercials. Now, what I think is fantastic about this is not only are they supplying these recent college graduates with assistance and with information that is valuable to them, but within the financial services space in particular, there's a huge talent gap that exists right now. And so they're having a tremendously difficult time recruiting new individuals to come in and work within the financial services space. And through this campaign, they're now identifying thousands and thousands of individuals who are raising their hand and saying, I'm looking for a job. And so this is giving Fifth Third the opportunity to engage and recruit and select from these individuals participating in this particular campaign. Now, when it comes to social media success, to me, especially in manufacturing, Caterpillar is an organization that stands out as a leader. They have 20 different groups. Each has a minimum of 2 to 4 channels. In total, they're responsible for over 200 social channels, not to mention 180 dealers that they engage with worldwide. And what I love is that CAT has married valuable content like safety webinars and remanufacturing thought leadership pieces with engaging and fun interactions like their hashtag Tuesday Trivia and hashtag Did You Know posts. And what's just as impressive is their ability to demonstrate the value of their products through videos and stories on things like fuel savings and energy benefits. Now, when I first reached out to Caterpillar, one of the things that I was wanting to understand is how do they measure ROI? Because I assumed if any organization was measuring social ROI, Caterpillar would definitely be one. And in my interview, what I found is that the way that they measure social media success is conversion to product pages. And that to them is a key indicator. If they are driving the appropriate traffic to the appropriate pages, then to them that is success. One of the other things that I think is particularly interesting is how Caterpillar is beginning to really evaluate geo-specific social media content and posts. So what they recognize is that if they have the top snow removal guy in the United States talking about best practices for snow removal, that certainly is relevant and people will interact with it. But what's even more relevant is if they can get the top snow removal guy in the state of Illinois or in the city of Chicago to talk about best practices and then target people within the state of Illinois or the city of Chicago with that local thought leader, that really, really drives engagement. And so I definitely have to applaud Caterpillar for their desire to get very specific and personalized with that social outreach. So let's take a look at a couple other examples of how people can leverage social media aside from just publishing information. So the first thing that I want to focus on is leveraging social media for social sign-on. For a lot of organizations, if you go out and you look at a form, it's asking you for your first name, last name, company name, and fields can extend up to 10 to 15 depending on the amount of information that an organization is looking to acquire about its audience. But leveraging social sign-on allows that audience member to just select a social channel, so perhaps LinkedIn or Twitter, and say you can access my social media profile, and with that one button exchange I can now download or register for the offer. And I think it's great because, one, it's providing individuals an alternative in registration, so you're probably going to see an uptick in registration conversion. And then for that organization and that company, you're acquiring accurate information that you know is going to remain relatively constant. And I find this is particularly relevant in industries where you are working with individuals who might be more nomadic in their career. So, for example, if you are marketing to and selling to scientists who work at different institutions, they're going to switch that educational institution on a fairly regular basis. And so this allows you to keep current contact information as opposed to trying to figure out, let's say, what university they've gone to in the last 2 years. And then additionally, you're also capturing that social media specific information. So you can focus on leveraging socially targeted communications tied to some of your other outbound marketing campaigns. And then lastly, let's take a look at social listening. And I think this is definitely huge with a lot of companies. From a customer service support standpoint, you definitely need to understand what is being said. You need to be responsive to posts that are published. You need to understand the sentiment behind those posts. I think competitive research, of course, is huge. So understanding what are your competitors doing and saying, what does your audience have to say about you versus your competitors. But I think there's also another key insight that can be gained, and it's understanding the conversation that's occurring amongst your audience and using that conversation to drive future content development. An example I'll give is there was a pharmaceutical company that we spoke with who develops a drug for smokers to help them quit smoking. And they published a lot of content that talked about the reasons that you need to quit smoking because it improves lung health. And all of their content was very much focused on lung health improvement, which of course is hugely important. But when we did this social listening study, what we found is that the concerns a lot of smokers have about smoking and stopping smoking is weight gain. And so what this allowed the pharmaceutical company to do is to reevaluate and think about developing content that address not just lung health, but also here's how you can quit smoking and avoid weight gain. So by listening to those conversations, it can really drive that content development moving forward. Again, if you have any information or any questions about any of the information that was discussed in this presentation, again, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to chat and discuss any of these further. Thank you.